All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's member lean-in. Hope you're all doing well, and thank you for taking the time to attend Transition to 3D CAD. Today will be a practical demonstration of QARC for Revit, which has been highly anticipated from our last member lean-in on transitioning to 3D CAD. So Mark and Peter will be your presenters from QARC today for today's session with Kayleen demonstrating QARC for Revit. Just some guidelines when Mark and Peter are presenting. Please just put any questions into the chat so Mark and Peter are able to answer them at the end. So we'll allocate 10 to 15 minutes for this. If you could have your camera off, we've got quite a few people on today. This will stabilize our internet connection, so I'll provide the recording for you. So I've put some links in the chat for QARC for everyone to access. You would have seen yesterday on the reminder email there were 2 survey links. So completing these surveys will put you in the draw for one lucky person to win a 1-year subscription to premium QARC for Revit package. Thank you, everyone. I'll hand over to Mark and Peter now.
G'day, welcome everybody. So this is the follow-up to the last lean-in. So if you didn't watch that one, or you didn't read my book, then go back and do both of those. If you did watch the last one, you know that I talk very fast, and today will be no exception because we've got a lot to go through today to actually showcase what QARC for Revit does and how systems will help your office. So we're going to show the QARC browser in use, some manufacturer's content. And today we have the 3 of the 4 founders of QARC with 150 years combined design and documentation experience. So myself, I'm an architect like the rest of you guys. I'll be doing the talking. Kayleen will be doing the demonstration, and Peter will be correcting and adding technical aspects. Peter is the design practitioner and brains and original creator of most of our systems. Kayleen is his longtime colleague with experience in documentation and coding, which makes her the perfect intermediary between us and our coding experts. And I'm just the person that got frustrated that we're all duplicating the stuff and we should all get together and make more money. We're all passionate about design and documentation. So it's going to be rapidly paced. So hold your questions to the end. I'll put stuff in the chat. You'll notice that Kayleen will be scrolling through, showing a lot of the features. So here we've got our list of drawings and so forth. So while I'm talking, watch the screen, we'll be all over the place. But I really want to demonstrate how you can actually use systems to increase your income for pre-design, sketch design, develop design, and so forth. And also demonstrate how to raise documentation standards while increasing income. As I say, myself and Kayleen might get a little bit out of sync, but here we go. So let's start off with basic pre-design and sketch design. Obviously, as architects, one of the few people that do pre-design, which is basically a space planning envelope, which, and the point of that exercise is to get the client committed and get to a point where we can get an initial PD account and they're committed to the project. In our basic template, we actually have dummy buildings. Now, the dummy buildings actually give you a really very, very fast starting point. So we have existing buildings and a proposed building. So if you've got an existing project, it's a simple matter of going in. You'll notice that the default here is actually 3 levels. We do that to counter for all instances. So the way our template is set up, it basically covers every project and every instance, and then you take stuff away. The most efficient way with systems and computers is to put everything in there that you may ever need and only use the stuff that you want to use. So you'll see very quickly she's just gone from 3 stories down to 2, and the whole system. All of this is Revit stuff, but it's a matter of setting up each of the sheet templates so it happens very quickly. As I say, we have that for an existing and for a proposed. So very quickly, you can have an existing building. If you've got some existing measurements, you can effectively get in there, click on the grids. And if you've got some on-site measurements, quickly add those, put in the measurements and adjust them, and the building will automatically adjust very, very quickly. And in no time flattening up an existing building done. The important thing about that is it's to do with phasing as well. So the phasing is set up on the sheets automatically, so it's very clear whether whether parts of the project are new walls or existing walls, and they're color coded and phased differently. So that's set up with the graphic override. So the important thing is setting up each of these sheets. So you'll notice here that Kayleen's working in what we call the working drawing. So The proper way to use Revit correctly is to always work in a working view and not the sheets themselves. That's a mistake that you should never make. You go in and you can affect scales and do all sorts of things, but always work in your working existing, working proposed and so forth, and then go back and confirm later on that everything is done on the sheets you want to. And that's because you have several sheets laid on top of each other, your roof lines and which have used graphic overrides to make sure only that one thing is shown. Okay, so where are we? So there's Kayleen going away there. Now, so the importance about pre-design is getting the client to a point where they go, oh yeah, there's my existing building and there's my proposed building. We can actually get to a point where we send out a bill and say, you know, is that pretty much what you were thinking? And get paid and move on to the next stage. So very quickly, Kayleen's now going to add a new extension, if you like, or a new building, just to show the different components of the existing and the proposed. Okay. Anything else to add there, Pete, while we're going?
No, we're doing well. Keep it up. That's great.
So the important thing is we're doing all this work in these working drawings, but we also have 350 sheets all automatically set up. So the existing ones are what we call 800 series. So we have an alphanumeric numbering system that so the numbering stays exactly the same on every project. It's just the project number that actually changes. What's happening there, Carleen? We've gone from full screen. Oh, good. So on every project, now the 800 series is alterations and extensions, and 400 three-dimensional views, and 100 floor plans, and 200 elevations, and 300 sections. Pretty much in accordance with international standards to some degree, but we actually make ours alphanumeric so we can actually find them. So all my sections have a prefix ST on them, and floor plans have a FP on them. And once you map your brain to it, it's actually pretty good on site to help you find what you're looking for.
So Kayleen's continuing to just build up a bit of a model here, just quickly to give you some indications of where it's headed.
Now, the important thing I need to mention here is because this is what we call a dummy building. So what that does is very quickly gets you to a point. So I have a policy that I never actually work on a project until I actually have a survey plan. I think it's a good policy, but just in case you didn't, you're in a position where you want to hook the job or do some work, then you can do this without having to worry too much about levels and everything else because you've got a default site in place. But certainly I get that fairly early on in the process. Now, all the walls and all the roofs in this particular case are all are generic. So architects need to have them. So these are typically 250 walls and something like that for the roofs. So they actually represent, you know, pretty much a brick, veneer, or a block or something like that. You never actually want to go into real materials at this stage. The whole point of pre-design is effectively show the client that you've listened to them, got their brief, and they can have a look at some kind of 3D object to illustrate and go, oh yes, that's my existing house. Oh, I can see that's pretty much what you've got proposed. And
you can see Kayleen's just moved to one of the actual sheets. So you can see how working in existing and then, sorry, in the working views and then the presentation sheets are happening at the same time.
Okay. So the smart ones amongst you are going to sit there and say, yeah, that's fine, but what if my north is not up the page or it doesn't actually? So here's one of our pre-set up views. I love axonometrics. People can understand them. Take the roof off. They can say, oh yeah, there's my existing house. That's where it sits next to my new one. Bing, bang, bung. That's all great. So as I said, smart ones will be saying that's all right if north is up the page, and you know, what if my plan's a bit skewed or something funny like that. So here's where you come to True North and Project North. So what you want to be able to do, so all your sheets are actually set up so that they're orientated the way you want them to be. But you need to make sure that your north is actually correct. Otherwise, your 3D views with all these pre-set up sun angles and things like that just won't work. So you'll notice the Kayleen will just rotate this. And again, the green notes are their instructions on how you actually use all this stuff. So we've basically got our QA manual or our instruction manual built into the drawings, although the more extensive instruction manual is accessible directly off the cloud from inside Revit itself. But you'll notice there that that's actually rotated, but the sheet itself hasn't. So when we go to do the sun angles, they're all correct.
And by the way, what Kayleen just caught up with there was she adjusted the north point on the title blocks at the same time very quickly, because we have a system for that as well.
Okay, so if we quickly go to the 400, the shadow diagrams, we pre-set up our shadow diagrams, so very quickly you can actually have a look and show the client this is where the sun's going to be, and in effect, so there you go. Oh, and then we have to update all the sheets to for the North Point, Kayleen.
She's already done that, Mark.
Oh, sorry, did I miss that? Did I? She already did that. Okay, so she clicked on that. I missed that she actually updated every single sheet to the correct north. Okay, so pretty much that's pre-design done. Terrific. Let's send a bill, and the client sends the money back. Let's move on to the next stage, which is sketch design. So moving on to sketch design, this is where I typically use color drawings. And invariably the client comes back and says, I want to change the design a little bit. I want to add this bay window or change the roof or something like that. So this is the point where this is the first time I actually start adding doors and windows or anything, making any extensive changes to the plan to show how it might work in reality. Okay, so Carleen won't get there yet, but when she does, you'll see very soon she'll actually pull something from the actual QARC browser, which will be the doors and windows and furniture. So if you look to the right of the screen up here, you'll see the QARC content browser. You'll notice that we've actually got some manufacturers up there, some smart manufacturers who joined us and let us make their Revit families, so they actually work for practitioners like us. Under the QARC library there, we actually have 11,000 Revit families that we've made and put together. Obviously you can only access them if you pay for full subscription. But the good news is, if you sign up for the free Explorer package, which is free, you only need to have a Autodesk 360 license, and you can get that instantly. Sign up for it. You get access to 800 families for free. So, so if you have full Revit and you want to sign up for Explorer, do that. Peter will put a link up for you. You can go to the I Want QARC and away you go.
And now, that is in the chat bar now.
So for example, as part of that, we've got windows and doors, hundreds of actual windows and timber windows and doors, which for Australian houses. So, and that's all free, which is just absolute gold, amazing stuff. So if you're doing alterations and additions, you're crazy if you don't get on and sign up for the free package and get access to that. Okay, so Carleen's just doing some really simple changes to this, to the roof, which is, a client requirement of. Okay, so I am talking faster than I thought.
Yes, you've sped up past Kayleen.
Yeah, well, that's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to beat her, but it's smashing out pretty quick though.
The point here is we're trying to showcase that the archetype template is set up so that you get to a result on presentation sheets quicker than you normally would. So,
Kayleen, if you can go to my cutoff 3D view, that's possible. The 430s or something like that. So you can see that the sheets just automatically update, and so away you go. Okay, so we're going back to the floor plan, Kayleen. Is that good? And we're just going to adjust the scale.
Hang on, Mark. We've just got to throw some doors and windows in.
Oh, I've got the doors and windows. All right, so here we are in the browser. Yep, get ahead of myself. So here, for example, one of our manufacturers. And the beauty about it, you'll actually notice that it's very simple. So the old-fashioned way of going to a manufacturer's website, registering, waiting for them to come back and actually give you a password, then go in, trying to find the Revit file, then downloading that, having to save it somewhere as a zip file, having to unzip it, having to open it up and have it update to the current version that you're actually on, and then having to save that somewhere so you can find it again some stage in the future, da-da-da-da-da. How's that compared to just go to this, have a preview, have a look at it, load it in the project, and it's in. It's just, I don't understand when anyone does it any other way. It just saves me so much time every day. It's insane. So yeah, I don't think the traditional ways are the way to do it, but this is where we need you guys to get onto your manufacturers and say, how come you aren't delivering via QARC systems? It's brilliant. It just saves us so much time. You want your stuff specified. Get onto QARC systems so I can actually use your products. It's a win-win.
And hang on, Mark. And here's Kayleen. She's used some all-kind windows. Now she's using a couple of things from our generic library, the 11,000 thing.
Yeah, so in addition, as I say, we've got 11,000. So in addition to our manufacturers, every time I want something and can't find it and I want to go to America and get in feet and inches, I say to Pete, make this for me. So I'm his worst nightmare, but his best friend, because I keep saying, I need this, I need that, I need this. The other important thing is a lot of the manufacturers you'll actually notice, if you're a practitioner like we are, over model stuff. So for example, a lot of window and door manufacturers model down to the last grommet and screw and fixing, sliding door windows. So when you actually print that 1:100, it comes out as a great big black blob, because one of the problems with Revit is you can't make thin lines so extremely thin that at 100 blow up, they don't read correctly. So I get frustrated all the time, get all this manufacturer's Revit files, which are just absolute rubbish. And they don't understand. Beautifully modeled, but no use to us, because we want to actually show that it's a window, not a big black blob. So that's long way to go on that, I'm afraid, when it comes to manufacturers. We'll talk about that soon, later.
Yeah, you can just see Kayleen working her way through just doing a normal modelling process and the benefits of having the library there for this.
It just speeds up the whole process. And of course, at some stage, you can change from generic to, which is with the next stage, we'll talk about that, change from generic to a particular product that you want. And
you can see how quick it is just to go in, grab an item like the louver window, and now just quickly adjust sizing.
So talking about parametrics, for example, so parametrics, it's a nice balancing act. So I'll come back to our template. A lot of people, I talked about on my previous video, that they put a lot of the stuff that they normally use, their favorites, into the actual project files. But in no time flat, the project files ends up full of millions of favorites. And as you know, in Revit, trying to actually identify and find a particular thing that you're looking for is really cumbersome. Doesn't have a really good blow-up preview or anything like that. But ultimately your template file becomes totally overloaded with flotsam and jetsam and stuff that you never got rid of. So our principle always is you download the very latest template file, which we're constantly updating from the cloud, and you start the project from fresh, so it's got no rubbish in there. And because you can easily go and get any of our 11,000 products and add them, and so your files aren't full up with all sorts of things that you're never going to use, that you don't have to purge and get rid of. So it solves that file becoming absolutely huge as well.
And you can just see here, Kayleen is making the building a bit more realistic for your client, so that the process of sketch design is being proven to them. And see, here's Kayleen just showing you, as you keep going, the presentation drawing is being developed at the same time with just following the modelling process. The presentation drawings come with it.
Now, again, you'll notice on this sheet, we've got, for a typical residential, we've got bedrooms and bathrooms, verandas and kitchens and stuff like that. My principle with whenever you're using Revit or any sort of systems at all, you put all the stuff on the drawings to save your typing. So that there's a group that you just go in and edit. And if you don't need any of it, you get rid of it. If you do, you place it on the sheets and it saves your typing. If you're typing, you're making spelling mistakes. So again, the principle is take away, don't add to. It just makes it faster and there's less mistakes.
You can just see here, Kayleen, we've got a group here. If this is how you like to do it without using rooms, you can just quickly throw some text on. Just a means it's just to speed you up and have a standard set of methodology within your practice.
Yep. Cool. So again, systems, principles. If you do it once, make sure you don't have to do it again. And again, the principles take away, don't add. Right, are we up to the scale change, Kathleen?
She's about to hit you with that mark.
Okay. So again, the client comes back, doesn't quite understand it, want to change it to a 1:50. Again, each of our sheets are set up, so you'll notice that you change the scale on one, you actually have to change the scale of the roof one over the top as well. But it's a fairly simple process. Yeah,
and here's Kayleen just showing you. So on each title, we have a whole pile of preset scale bars waiting for you to just quickly tick and flick.
So again, I've got some really odd ones. You'll notice in there, 1:25, 1:400. I put everything on an A3 sheet. And so I just keep coming up with different and odd scale. You're not supposed to scale the drawings anyway. So I want to fit everything on A3, it just makes it easier on site. So the key to this is actually changing the scale by a click button, changing the orientation by typing in information in. And so we've actually on our website got lots of sample projects that myself and Peter and other users have done. I've just currently got a $10 million project, which has got 150 sheets on it. So Pete's actually added that to our website under the sample documents. So
and I'm just adding in a link here, by the way.
Okay. So here, for example, is that particular project. It's so huge, it's actually been broken up into 5 files, but it shows a really good illustration of how I believe you should put together a set of working drawings as well. And lots of 3Ds these days. 3Ds are wonderful communication tools for the builders.
And Mark, this is currently under construction, isn't it?
It is under construction, yep. And then the other thing is we actually have several north points to choose from. So again, if you've got a particular way of doing it or a title block sheet, we pretty much can meet most of those requirements. So, okay, that's a pretty quick summary of sketch design stage. Bing, bang, how we going? Smashing it out. Okay. So again, we put together a set of drawings. They're all predefined set of drawings. There's 350 sheets of drawings here. So again, it's my principle of use it if you want to, don't if you don't want to. So you can actually choose 20 sheets of drawings, send them off to the client. You can send the sun diagrams, the shadow diagrams, any one of those drawings. I tend to find that I send more and more these days, because in the past, we architects used to have to do one hand-drawn perspective or something and make it pretty so the client would pay us. Now we can actually show them lots of drawings to show that we've been working really hard on their design and getting paid for that design. And so invariably I send 20 or 30 sheets of drawings out. It's still green because I tell them to use it for bin liners. So I use them all mine for bin liners, it's great. And then, of course, they pay your bill really quickly when they've got lots of drawings they can show their friends. So there we are, sketch design stage, send a bill, get paid. Move on to design development. Now, invariably, this is often town planning stage, so there's a lot more requirements. So at this point, we end up substituting for actual real materials. So you see, for example, Caroline will come in and pick a manufacturer's product. And we actually have ours as a system family. So rather than just having the cladding, which a lot of manufacturers do, which is useless to us as practitioners, we've still got to make the walls and create all that. My attitude is, well, your manufacturers want us to use your products, give us the whole system family so we can dump the whole thing in and not have to actually create anything. They want us to use their product, create it for us. So again, simple preview, pick the one we want, what's on what size frame it's on, what the cladding is on it, click on the particular product that we're using and change it to that particular realistic. So now again, all these system families need to be set up so they work well in black and white, they work well as in shaded or colored, and also as realistic.
And we should just mention that as Kayleen is dragging these in, what's happening is these are coming from the cloud. What it also brings is the material which goes to your C drive automatically without you having to know how to do it.
So a lot of manufacturers send the materials out as a product file or a zip file and basically tell you where to put it, and you've got to trust all your staff to do that without stuffing up your C drive. Good luck with that. So again, ours does that all automatically. It all maps automatically and it works automatically. The other advantage too is, QARC is available from 2019 to 23 version. So when you actually sign on to 360, it automatically detects what system your computer's on, so you don't have to update any of these files. There's none of this nuisance of updating from a 19 to a 20 and so on and so forth. And also saying, oh, it's not backwards compatible. I can't actually use this because yours is a 22 and you're currently using a 19. So again, our system interrogates it and does all that stuff automatically to save you all that nuisance stuff that we typically get.
And as Kayleen just quickly does some changing of the roof here, we would also like to mention that our system families, particularly walls, are preset so that the top and bottoms are unlocked, so they automatically can be extended.
Now, you'll notice that, so we're going to very quickly go into a roof, and you'll notice on the right here that we've got different roof thicknesses and different systems. So you generally, again, you want to make it once, you don't have to make it again in the future. So, and you'll notice all the colours on the side there. I think Peter spent weeks making sure that we've got all the colours and coloured barges and cappings and so forth as well. Now, if you know too much about Revit, you'll know that fascias and gutters and barges are one of the most nuisance things that when we used to do CAD, illustrate the drawings very well. And if you can't put them on the 3D, it's not only doesn't look realistic, but it's just a nuisance. So we actually put in gutters as fascias rather than as gutters. And so we've come up with a system there and it just works very, very nicely. The important thing about that, I suppose, is hips and valleys are a little bit more difficult, much more difficult, and you actually have to do all the maths and create all the hips and valleys for it as well, which is what we've also done. We've got a skillion roof at the moment there, but just for example.
Yes, Kayleen's just going to have a quick showcase of, you're going to change a couple of other things and then put another couple of extra hips on.
So we'll go to the...
just hang on, Mark, she's just catching up here.
Yep. So she'll change that roof, obviously due to phasing. It's an existing one, so it's not coloured, but obviously on the existing model it would be. Now you'll see here all the cappings have all been worked out mathematically depending on what the roof pitch is. So huge amount of work involved in that, but yeah, that alone will save you all the time you need to pay for QARC in one motion. The hours that have been spent doing this and other practices mustn't do or must do, it just seems like an incredible waste of time.
And you can see here, Kayleen has instantaneously turned the building realistic with real cappings.
Okay. So, from what I've seen, no one else been able to make it work this well. And to me, it's really, really important that my models look realistic and model really well. So barges, capping, and flashing are absolute gold. One of the first things I asked Peter to do for me, and which he's done. So now the other thing is we've also see here on the right, we've got My Personal Locker, which is a most recent addition, which is really, really exciting. So that when you actually do find a window or a door or drag something from a manufacturer's side or from a farm or unzip the file and update it and do all that stuff and finally get it in this project, BIM Locker actually gives you an opportunity to actually save it back to your favorites. And you'll notice that we actually have all the subcategories, annotations, appliances, dimensions in a typical Revit format. So the libraries are already set up and with the tectonics there, so you can actually leave it there. And it actually stays there on the cloud, a bit like Dropbox. So next time you want to load that into another project, another job, you can actually use our browser for your families. That is absolute genius. And as far as I'm aware, no one else in the world has done it. So here we are, little Brisbane guys. Pretty exciting stuff, I think. So if you think that's exciting, then actually go to the survey and fill out that survey, and one of you will get a year's free subscription to actually access that BIM Locker. Now,
and that is in the chat bar.
That's in the chat bar now. Now, if you don't win that, there's some other good news, because Free Explorer actually gives you access to use BIM Locker for up to, how many is it, Pete? 50, is it?
Something like that.
Can't remember. Anyway, so try before you buy. Go in, you can actually use the free QARC browser, use the free BIM Locker for up to 50 items. And once you need more than that, then you can subscribe to something a bit bigger. So
and you can just see Caroline's now showing you how quick it is and easy to upload anything.
So it's the most exciting thing that I've seen for years, I reckon. And that's live dynamic. So you can see that's already in the browser live for you. So, okay. So at this stage, we pretty the building up. We put some materials and stuff on it. We go back to our sheets and show some nice 3Ds and 2Ds and all that sort of stuff to package together so we can send out another bill.
And before we leave that, Mark, just wanted to mention that BIM Locker does come in extra versions for bigger practices, which we can talk about another time.
Yeah, so it's like everything else. We've got different packages for different purposes. A lot of people are just small residential. We try to keep it very efficient, small for them. So you can see very quickly we can package together a very realistic looking building, and we didn't do GFA, sorry. So this is for town planning. We might need some sun diagrams. We need some sections and elevations. Again, we've set up the GFA drawings so that if your staff know nothing about it, all you've got to do is go actually into the particular room and literally click like that, and your GFA is done. Bang. Now that's actually dynamically associated to the wall, so when they change it, automatically updates. So brilliant. You've got to use the power of the computer to save your time. Never have to draw things twice. Don't make it hard.
And what we're trying to showcase here is that the sheet's already set up with all this information so that you don't have to know how to create a schedule. It's sitting there waiting for you.
I think it's a really valid point. I'm not the world's best Revit user at all. There's people out there who'd be 10 times better than me, but put me on a QARC system in front of them, I'll smoke them every time, because I don't know. I don't care how to set these sheets up. I don't want to know how to do schedules. I don't want to know how to do title blocks. I don't know how to do that stuff. I want to design, get my design done, show it to the client, and get paid for a good design. So this is the power of computers. So Revit is incredibly powerful system. Though, if you watch my previous video, I've done 5 different types of software. This one has the most hardest to learn, but has the most flexibility, so you can add on products like ours. So we've been evolving and developing this for 10 years. And every time I run into a brick wall, I say to Pete, let's fix this. I had to do this twice. I don't want to do it a third time. Let's automate it. So there you go. We can put that together, submit out for our town planning application with all the information that we need. And if it gets updated by council, which invariably does 27 times, that updates automatically. On to working drawings. How are we going time-wise? Not too
We're
bad.
fine. Keep going.
So working drawings, again, out of the 350 sheets, we've got a whole lot of that stuff all worked out. So you want your working drawing template to be ready to rock. So obviously we switch back to black and white for, printability, but I also keep a lot of my 400 series, which is the 3D stuff in colored, just as a communication document, even on my working drawings. So Carly's going to add some dimensions. Again, we've got a whole bunch of dimensions in that you can use. So sport for choice.
And we also would like to mention that good documentation requires clean sheets. So that's why we recommend you separate things like dimension views from the floor plans.
So, this is a set out drawing. 510 is a set out drawing, which is different to the floor plans, which might show, and we have different floor finishes. Again, you can use them or not use them. It's your choice to put them together or not put them together. But again, you'll notice that the dotted line of the roof over in this new extension here, that's a totally separate sheet, which is with the graphic overrides have been set up to do that. Those that are familiar with Revit, you know that if you actually do that in the wrong order, it actually won't show up. If you put the roof one on first and then the floor plan over the top, it actually won't read properly. So again, don't care about that stuff. Set it all up for me, Pete. I just want it to work.
And what we wanted to indicate here is follow the best principle, which is model more, draft less.
Absolutely. Well, design more and draft less. In the past, we used to have to pay draftsmen to come and do drawings for us, and now it's actually just quicker to do it yourself. If you've got a good system like this, you don't have to communicate with someone. And it's actually a good design tool. I find that while I'm actually drafting, I'm going, oh, I could do that. So I'm constantly evolving the design while I'm documenting, because the documentation is so much easier.
And we should also mention that there's a whole bunch of dimensions and other items like that in the QARC browser. So you can change any of these to anything you like. We've got so many things that, like even blue dimensions and red dimensions, it goes on. So it's all about communicating your design to your client better and getting paid faster.
Okay, so we'll do a couple of window schedules next, I imagine. Oh, just let Carleen. We're not even in the same room. So we're not even in the same room, which is one of the benefits of having a good system. You gave your staff work from home, and you don't have to have in the same office to tell them how to do it. We just do it.
And see here, Carleen's just very quickly tagging a few things. We have multiple tags, so you've got so many you can choose from. And there's just one example.
Again, the window schedules set up on the 700 series. So you can see I know where everything is. Automatically, the schedules are automatically prepared. And then of course you can do elevations if you want as well. And
if you choose to, there's key plans already in the template, which some people like. If you don't want them, just take them away.
You want to do that match data for us, Carleen?
Yeah, this is just the most amazing thing. I love watching this.
So once you've got that window,
so just using the power of Revit here again, using the tiled windows, you can so quickly populate a schedule and its legend view. And you're not making any errors, which is the most important.
Okay. So just flicking back, we might briefly come back and discuss about the green notes on the side there. I mentioned it before, but basically it's an instructional panel so that you've got students or recent graduates or in fact, sometimes the boss. My argument is the boss that hasn't turned on a computer in his life can actually come in and learn this very, very quickly. So I'm in my 60s and I'm all over this. And I wouldn't be. I've spoken to a lot of people that are trained in Revit and gone to many, many courses, and it's just too hard. So this way it's all set up for you. And this basically is instruction to tell you how to do it.
And we have, in addition to that, in the QARC menu, there's a companion, checklists and tips and tricks, and they're all sitting there as PDFs waiting for you at any time to open.
So now what Kayleen's actually doing, again, you've got your keynotes if they're set up correctly. So for example, we've obviously got these manufacturers on board and we've set them up correctly. And so you actually, their products literally get specified by default. And you don't even have to type in or schedule it. That's all done automatically for you. So you'll notice there's an abbreviation for it. If we go up the right here, you'll see that the keynote legend is automatically generated and can be easily adjusted. That one, yeah. Okay, so and then very quickly, so you can see from there very quickly there's a lot to go to turn out the working drawings, but you get the idea. And we pop on back to the cover sheets. And now the cover sheets, because the power of Revit again, every time you update a sheet and change its name or its number or its issue, it automatically does that. So you put that on the cover sheet and that becomes your transmittal document. So you don't need to type all that stuff across. Remember the old days of typing that and always getting spelling mistakes and numbers that never added up. This is the best thing since sliced bread. Automatically issue, and there's my transmittal document done. And
we also have an option within the system, if you like your old sheet 1 of 37 or 1 of 60, 160 in Mark's case, we have that in addition to just the sheet numbering.
So just a bit, and the important thing is everything you can think of, we've got in there because we've got 150 years of experience between us. But everyone that comes on to QARC themselves, the beauty about us being Brisbane-based and Australia-based and English-based is that if something doesn't work, you get onto us and say, this doesn't work, this would be nice. So we've got a roadmap of so many things that we want to do in the future. And you know, slowly as we get to a point that we can get the time to get onto it, we do so. Obviously, we spend a lot of time making sure that every time Windows updates and breaks everything, and Revit updates and breaks everything, there's a lot of time fixing all the stuff in the background. There you go. So, Kayleen, you want to quickly go to maybe? Oh, you've been back to the example projects. So. Okay.
So Mark, it's time to, you can tell them they can send another bill.
Okay, so that's working drawings done. So let's send another bill. So that was very, very fast, but you can see what's important to me as an architect is I want to get to a point where I can illustrate my design skills, show them to the client. They can actually accept that we've thought about the sun and the climate and orientation and the design components. We communicate it to the clients. I'm not one of these people that believe we need to do really fancy 3D renders and walk through and fly around. So I did that actually 20 years ago. And as I got further and further into it, I did that less and less because A, people didn't pay me for it. B, I had to pay for extra software. C, I had to keep updating it all the time and learning all the new nuances. And to me, Revit out of the box, black and white color, realistic. You've got the right materials, right mapped on it. It looks terrific. I also figured that a lot of my clients were actually getting attached to the technology itself, the beauty of the fly through and the walkthroughs. They're all excited and showed all their friends, and they actually weren't really seeing the design component of it. And that's the most important thing, I think, as an architect. So they're getting to the point where they're going, oh, that's not the color fan that you showed in your model. It's like, you know, well, that's not important. It's only an illustration, but they can get attached to it a little bit. So there you go. There you go. Very, very quickly, 40 minutes. So who can't see that QARC can't pay for itself in a day? Like you don't have to use any of these drawings, but the 350 sheets are there. So, and again, alphanumeric number system, you don't have to give it a go. You'll be surprised. 200 years of experience. Peter and I argued over every single name and every single number to get to a point, and Kayleen and Andrew. So if we argue over what way we'd like to do it and eventually compromise, then there's a good chance we've come up with a reasonable compromise.
And here's some examples that Kayleen's is showing you. 37 videos, how to use it as well.
Show you how to do it as well. And she actually showed you the manual from inside itself. So now remember, our most expensive package is a cost of a cup of coffee a day. Well, if that isn't worth it, then something's wrong. We're doing something wrong if you can't see the value in that. So remember, sign up for the free Explorer, get access to those 800 things. And there's a rudimentary template there to show you what we can do. And we've got a whole lot of packages. Remember to complete the survey, and one person will receive a year's free access to QARC Premium. And the link will be there in the chat box again. So if you don't do that now, you can get online. Joel will send you a link to that, plus the previous video, plus the questionnaire, and probably my ebook. Now, the last and most important, I think about QARC is you can see we're all remote at the moment. Pete's remote to me and Kayleen. And the most exciting about this is if your office adapts some kind of system, it doesn't have to be QARC, but any kind of system, and with manuals in place, all your staff can work from home. So you've got mothers with children or carers at home, or draftees, architects that are actually squeezed out of the system can actually come back and actually be architects that work for you for home if we're all using the same system. We're all accessing the same things. And I find that really exciting. It's also more exciting for architects to collaborate and work together. So I've actually worked with another architect on a job and under QARC systems, and sent the drawings off to him. He worked on them, came back. I knew exactly where everything was. I didn't have to go searching for it because he was using my system. And so I could then make changes to the drawings like that. So anyone in your office can actually do that as well. So that's pretty exciting too. So we're probably just about bang on time, Joel. That was pretty cool.
We're all on time. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, go ahead and ask. If you want to turn your mic on, you want to put it into the chat. Yeah, go ahead.
It's not much stuff in the chat room. Not a very chatty bunch, are you?
You've wowed them, Mark, that they're just so stunned and amazed.
I hope so, because we put 10 years worth of work in this, and I'm really excited this can transform. I want to transform the way architects do business so we all start making money again. So, and get appreciated for our design skills. Come on, there must be some questions out there, surely, out of all you people. No? Now, if you're thinking it, remember, there's someone else there that's doesn't want to ask. So if you think it and ask it, then you might answer 2 other people's questions. Come on, there must be a question. Who's going to be the one that stumps us? Nobody? You have to unmute your mic.
Here we go. There's a question, Mark, and I'll answer it. Is there an LT version? And I'm afraid the answer is no, because LT does not accept plugins, and QARC is a plugin.
So I mentioned this on the previous one. So Autodesk have basically every LT version of any Autodesk products are basically loss leaders, and they're designed so that you can't actually use plugins to add on to them. And so the difference between that and the far more expensive full Revit is the ability to plug in everything and make everything talk to everything. So the short answer is no, the long answer is no. And the main reason we invented QARC, because we couldn't justify going from LT to full Revit, but QARC actually turbocharges full Revit so that you get 10 times the benefit out of that extra money, and makes it work so much faster. So
now, Mark, we've got a couple of very valid questions here. The first one is, I'm looking to take on Revit from scratch, having used AutoCAD for years. How often have we heard that? How easy is it to pick up using your system? We have someone in Cairns, literally right now, who has gone from AutoCAD to Revit, and she did it overnight with QARC. She is already, what was this, only 3 weeks later, she's produced a set of drawings to present to her client. That's pretty amazing. Admittedly, she's very switched on with AutoCAD, but the ability of the QARC template just transformed it, and she's just stunned.
I can probably answer that too. That's exactly what I did. I was on AutoCAD for years, but I also had 3D add-ons for years as well. And actually changing to Revit was a major thing for me because my brain was mapped a different way. And that was, again, one of the reasons that we created QARC, was to make that process seamless and easy. Everyone else was 6 months to 2 years before they could actually start making money out of it, so you had to run parallel projects. So the whole reason we came up with this is to make that as painless as possible and as fast as possible. So if you have one sideline project, by the time you finish that project, hopefully it's one that doesn't have a ridiculous deadline, if that ever happens, then you can actually, ready to get onto it.
Now, Mark, we've got a brilliant question here. How easy is it to add your own office's Revit title block into the system? By joining onto our premium, we give you a choice of 4 standard title blocks, which we adjust for you. For a modest fee, we will actually change our methodology to incorporate your look. The point of Archetype is it has a system behind it, but it looks like you in the foreground, as in the title blocks become you.
So we use your title block, obviously your logo, things like that. If you're not happy with one of the 4, then there's a modest amount of money to change it. But the reality is there's so much flexibility built into the title blocks. You need to make your system fit ours. If I can say it that way, it makes more sense, and it might take you a while to realise that. It took me a while to realise that. So any of these questions have been done.
And you see this, here's an example of a title block of ours, actually, one of us. And you can see how quickly that just changed. So it now looks like your practice.
Yeah.
Now, there's another good question here. I like the green notes. How far do they go? Quite a way. Example, is there a documentation checklist based on the template types? We actually have a checklist in one of the PDFs. Kelly might show that when she has a chance. She has to catch up here. See this checklist. We've actually created sheet by sheet a methodology to at least give you a clue as to what you should or shouldn't do on your sheets. It's not perfect, of course not, but at least it's a starting point for you and your staff to get there. So that's an answer to that. Another question here, do you do 3D details or use AutoCAD for 2D details? That's kind of a Revit question.
Never.
And we would strongly suggest you get used to detailing in Revit itself. If you have standard legacy details, that's okay. Get used to bringing them in from AutoCAD, adjusting the suit, and then away you go. By the way, in the Archetype, we have included some details that we've obtained from third parties, and you can use them and begin to understand how to do it. See, here's Kayleen, she's showing what a way to do this. This is a Revit, this example, really not a Archetype. And if you're really good at detailing, what you do is you use the model to begin to get your detail to work. Now, Mark's, in his example set that we gave you a link to, he's done hundreds of these, and it means that your model and your details are matching. And we've also got some other examples here that Karen's just showing you, like Level Master, one of our manufacturers. So we went to the trouble making detail items just for you to use. They're so easy.
In my documents, so if I cut a section through, I actually click on all that stuff and actually override it so it's virtually transparent and disappears. And I actually draw the 2D in paper space, if you want to use an AutoCAD term, over the top. So that way I actually know the detail works. Too often architects do lovely little details that actually aren't to scale. So that way when I'm actually doing a brick veneer or something like that, I'm literally doing it to scale. And the problem with that is when you update the model, it potentially doesn't align with that. But if you can have looked through my set, I think I've got about 50 sheets where I literally do that. But if you change something, you have to update it. But it always needs to be 2D. Again, a lot of manufacturers come out and say, yes, we've got 2D details and we've got Revit files. And a lot of the time they're actually CAD files that have been imported into Revit, and they're just totally useless. So
we have another question here, Mark, from Robert. Oh, no, it's not a question, it's a statement. So you need the full Revit already to add the QARC plugin? The answer is yes.
Yes. Yep.
And you just obtain that from your reseller or direct from AutoCAD. It's fairly straightforward. So here's an example of a detail based on the model.
So if you actually have a look there, you can see the very, very light in the background is actually the model. So you can see that it looks like a reveal in the background. So on the actual wall itself on grid A, that's actually the wall in the background. And I've actually done the details in 2D over the top of the wall to show exactly how I wanted it detailed. Just a tip, make sure you lock everything in the background. It's a bit dangerous. So you have to make sure everything's locked, otherwise you end up moving that detail, you're on strike. But I like to do that because I know it actually works. When I change the cladding, it works. Everything is exactly to scale. There's no, it just can't be wrong.
Now we have another question here. I'm just trying to read it. Sorry, drilling down here from Alex. Do your standard wall types include references to certified wall types, example Red Book, for fire rating, thermal, acoustic performance?
No.
Not yet.
No, that we won't do it either, because there's about 1,000 different ways to skin that cat, if depending on your manufacturer. And in my experience, I'm doing it right now in a current project. I specify the manufacturer, the thermal, acoustic, and fire performance. The first thing the builder wants to do is change from steel to timber. The whole thing goes out the window, and you've got to update your model anyway. There's just too many options, and no matter how I specify it or draw it, every job they change it, and there's really no point. If you go to, I think Seniat's got 1,000 different options, and really it's so confusing. And they've spent lots of money doing that, and I just think there's too many options. At the end of the day, you want to lock down what's going to be built. So yeah, but you can do it as a starting point. In fact, we might have a couple of default ones in there, Pete, if I come to think of it.
Yeah, we do. But we do take Alex's point, and we will look at this gradually.
Yeah, come to think of it, I can't remember making them, and on the last project I just did it. But yeah.
Oh, by the way, Kelly's just reminded me, we've got to be very careful about using other people's products within our library. Until they become a manufacturer within our system, we're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, so you'll notice we've got a lot of generic stuff there, and it just saves you having to go to that manufacturer. They're actually, hopefully they're place markers. So eventually every manufacturer will say, "Oh, actually, we want to get on there, so we'll replace." Like WeatherTech will come on board. So this looks too great. We'll just get in there. So we can actually use their product because they're on board with us. So anyone that's on board with us, we can actually do it. Anyone that's not, we can't use their product because of copyright reasons. And you'll find a lot of our generic ones are better than theirs anyway.
So feel free to talk to whoever your suppliers are.
Absolutely.
And ask them would they consider coming on board. Even if they have their own libraries, we're quite happy to host them for a modest fee.
Yes and no. A lot of the time we'll find that, as for example, windows and doors are too over modeled. So we'd actually use
yes, very true.
We'd actually go through and pull some of the rubbish out and use what's that line thing you called? Sometimes use lines rather than actual 3D extrusions because it's just
symbolic lines.
Yeah, and get rid of half of them because there's just too many lines. So does that?
We have a nice finishing comment here, Mark. It is a bugbear of mine. Designers using generic walls for too long and then having to make everything fit late in the piece. Mark's his idea is, yes, use generics just to get going and get paid, but very quickly use our system to make it go real from sketch design so that it is specified from early in the project, and that's important.
I think we showed that very clearly with simple walls. I think he's talking about acoustic and firewalls, but again, once you've got one that you use and you've got a preference, you can save it to BIM Locker for the whole office to use time and time again. So rather than picking one of the 1,000 ones that you're not going to use, everybody agrees what one they're probably going to use and put that in BIM Locker so you can all access it. All your office standards should be in BIM Locker. That's the logical thing to do.
And our BIM Locker work group is ideal for a small practice where you all share the same library. BIM Locker Enterprise is for practices of 30 or 40 or more people, and you can have amazing control over your own library.
I think that's the most exciting thing, because too often stuff is delivered in family farms these days, and you've got to drill through, and something you've got to zoom right in to actually find what's there, and it's very, very difficult. I like to pull out my favourites, particularly at sketch plan stage. You just want to, oh, that's my favourite toilet, my favourite bath and shower, bang, bang, bang. You want to whack together really, really quickly because those things are going to change, and ultimately you can swap them out really easily. in Revit. So that's good. Good questions. We're 10 years, we've had every single question thrown at us so far. And when we can't answer it, we end up adding something to QARC.
All right.
Come on board, be difficult like me.
Thanks, Mike and Peter, for the presentation today. We've reached our time limit at the moment. Thank you everyone to attending today's member lean-in session. So the recording for this will be in our newsletter, in our national newsletter. So once it's been finalised, it should be about a week till it comes out. So yeah, keep an eye out on the newsletter. If you could all fill in that quick survey, that'd be excellent. And everyone, have a great day.
Just before you go, Joel, so reach out, as Peter says, we have people come on all the time. So, you know, by all means, reach out to us and say, can you put us in contact with someone that's just done it? You can't get a better referral than that, and we'll contact them and say, do you mind talking to this person? And you can talk to them firsthand. Cool.
Awesome. Thanks everyone. Joel. And thank you all for the feedback and the questions. Have a great day.
Have a great day.